Christian XC1 Review covering Las Vegas and the world. It's week 9 of the college football season. We've got 6 great games to talk about, of course. Bearkat Bites on X, on Twitter. Lane Fobbs is here with us, of course, covering Sam Houston. Sam Houston, UNLV, University of Florida. Thankfully, they're all on a bye week. Lane, thank you so much for joining us. How are you? What do you think about these week's games before we talk about them?
Man, in wine country, they always say that the bottles made in drought years are the sweetest because the grapes that do make it through the drought are the best and sweetest ones. They're pretty good. This week kind of is a drought, but we got some grapes. And the ones that we do have are pretty sweet. I'm excited to talk to you about them, Chris.
How long did you rehearse that? How many times did you rehearse that? Because that was very well good. That was great, though. That was a great delivery. Very philosophical. Let's just start. Ole Miss, Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma is as good as their ranking. I don't know what you think about that. Ole Miss off the tough loss to Georgia. I know it's another road game for Ole Miss, I believe, right? I still think Ole Miss wins in this spot, but you tell me what you think.
It's easy to see why Oklahoma, isn't ranked. They had the tough game against Texas up north of us here in Houston, up in Dallas at the State Fair. But the thing about it is they're at home. They've still got a really good defense. And and we saw it last week, I'm not convinced about Ole Miss's defense, specifically their secondary. They can run the offense pretty well, but what happens when a defense like Oklahoma and Brent Venables can throw mud all over the field and slow them down? So that's my concern. But Oklahoma's offense, you're also concerned about that. Like, how are they going to score? Because this one is in Norman, I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Sooners.
Yeah, again, the two SEC ranked team road games back-to-back is a really tough scenario for Ole Miss. But I have to tell you again, as I told you the week of Ole Miss LSU, this is another situation where Ole Miss, a great freaking offense, in my opinion, is playing a team without a great offense. Yeah, Ole Miss's defense is questionable. I agree with that. Coin flip game. Sorry, I think Ole Miss, but coin flip game. Let's move along. Here's the point now. TAMU, they got everything going for them. Historically, have had very tough games against LSU. To me, that's the monkey they have to get off their back. LSU's offense, we've talked about it all year, not very good. LSU, I don't think, is a very good team at all. I mean, is this the year that TAMU gets the LSU monkey off their back, and is this the game?
This is the game. And, they beat them last year in Kyle Field as well. I would say that the streak is going to continue. Normally, I wouldn't, and it's usually because, it's in Death Valley, and LSU's defense. What defense? Whit Wheat's the star linebacker for them. He's not playing. I don't think Harold Perkins has really lived up to the hype that he had when he was recruited there out of New Orleans. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia were able to run up and down the field on them. And like we said, the Nuss bus, he's more hurt than he's letting on. He's been slow to get up after those hits. They can't run the ball. I'm going to go with the Texas Aggies in this spot. But I wouldn't be surprised if they lose because they're called Texas 8-4 for a reason.
Yeah, but I just know historically speaking, TAMU has not had a very good history against LSU in the last 10 years, last decade, last 15 years. So that's why I say, TAMU got to be the best TAMU program since Kevin Summerlin of some sorts in the last 10 to 15 years. They're on their way to the college football playoff. If they keep winning, they probably can afford to lose one along the way. But this is the one you do not want to lose.
Yeah, it's definitely one you don't want to lose, man. And by the way, Texas A&M, we've already saw some Aggie-ness a little bit. They were fined for faking an injury. I think they were fined like $50,000. And Mike Elko, the head coach, was given a warning. That happened last week against Arkansas. So that's a thing. And like you said, this is usually a spot. Death Valley has not been easy for Texas A&M. But what you like this time is they actually have some receivers that can catch the ball. They're a little bit injured at running back, but they can still control the line of scrimmage and the clock from that way. And that defense is pretty good. And defense travels. So, I'm as a fan, I'm hoping it's a good one. And I think it will be good. But I think the Aggies will pull it out. This will kind of be a la the Notre Dame game, maybe, where it's close up until the end.
Vanderbilt and Missouri got to be the biggest game of Vanderbilt and Missouri ever playing against each other. I know they don't have a huge history, but okay. The only question I have, can Vanderbilt keep it going? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes and yes, because I don't hate Eli Drinkowich, the head coach at Missouri, but I don't love their team. You know, we saw what happened when they played a team that can punch back on them like Alabama. You know, and I think Vanderbilt, they're a team that can punch back with them. And I like Diego Pavia. They're finding ways to open up lanes for him and the running backs. Eli Stores, I believe that's their great tight end, their pass catcher there. I'm actually going to go with the Commodores with the big game in this one.
Do you think, honestly, and I'm going to ask you this, I don't know much about Vanderbilt's roster. I'm going to admit that. Has the transfer protocol been the main reason why this is happening, in your opinion? Like, I know nothing. I know one thing about Vanderbilt. It's a tough academic school. It's one of the toughest academic schools in the SEC conference, besides Florida. So my question is that, do you think it's just the transfer protocol why this is happening? Because it's pretty freaking incredible. I mean, Nashville's an appealing city to live in, so kids love that too. And obviously there's all the NIL money to be made, but I just am so amazed at what they're doing there right now.
Yeah, you know, it's a confluence of a few things. One, they found their new-ish athletic director. She's really committing to the financial resources there. You also have Clark Lee, who is a Vanderbilt alum, so he's going to put a little more heart into it than maybe somebody else would. And then three, exactly like you said, it is the portal. Diego Pavia came in from New Mexico State. He brought in Jerry Kill, the head coach that came in from there. A lot of these guys are portal guys. So you can turn it around, but it's about once those guys get in there, are they buying into the coach, you know, into the culture? Are they really trying to focus on winning? And only the right coach can do that. They have the right coach. They have the right resources to reinforce him. So that's what's happening with Vanderbilt right now.
It's pretty incredible. Never in my, again, I feel like we're in a college football video game where Indiana and Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech are some of the best teams in college football, and I'm asking, how is that even possible? But it is. They're all in the top 10 right now. South Florida, Memphis, again, I think you'll agree with me. Is this the de facto best game of the non-major college football conferences this year thus far, or have I missed something? I know South Florida, North Texas a couple weeks ago, but this just seems like this is going to be a real good one, no?
It kind of does, you know. I mean, a little bit of the luster was taken off when Memphis lost last week to UAB with their interim coach. You know, Chris Mortensen, the legendary reporter, his son Alex Mortensen is the interim head coach for UAB. In his first game, he beats Memphis, hands them their first loss of the year. I think they've got a little bit of injury questions at quarterback, but you're right. This is one of the bigger games. I'm still going to go with South Florida in this one. I think their defense is really tough. Byron Brown is a great quarterback. He's big. He's nasty. He gives me Dante Culpepper vibes just a little bit. So for those of y'all familiar with him from back in the day, so I'm actually going to go with South Florida in this one. Right now, they are my G5 team to represent in the college football playoff.
Yeah, the reality of what it comes down to is that if they keep winning, I think they'll have a chance to be there. You know, moving forward, BYU, Iowa State. You were right about BYU beating Utah, by the way. Very good call on your part. That was a tough game to select. Can they keep it going? I know Iowa State's one of those tricky teams.
It is. You know, and I'm always one of those that pick Iowa State, and they always lose. BYU on the road, man, goodness, that game at home against Utah, that was a legendary win. I mean, you know, the Utes were not going away, and they were able to win and figure it out with Bear Bachmeier. Okay, Iowa State, this is my last time. If you screw me over again, if you do this, I'm done with you. I'm going to pick Matt Campbell and Iowa State. If they lose, I'm done. I'm done the rest of the season that we're doing this. But I'm going to go ahead with Iowa State because it's at home. I just like Matt Campbell as a coach. He knows how to figure out games like these from time to time. This is one, the Big 12. There's not a lot of variation there. So I'll give them the win.
Yeah, I think off the emotional loss, that's tough for BYU to bounce back and then go on the road to play Iowa State. By the way, I expect that game will be 4 points or less either way. That is going to be a close down to the wire game as well. Finally, interesting storylines two battle of 2-5-2 teams. Not a lot of great unranked versus unranked games this week. This is probably at the top of it. Northwestern, Nebraska. Tell me why this game is so interesting for the week.
Well, this game's interesting to me because you got Nebraska. They're coming off of another Matt Rule, weeknight special on a Friday, right? But the thing about it is Penn State's looking for a coach right now. If they fire James Franklin, Matt Rule is always a name that comes up. Why not the coach of his opponent this week, David Braun? I mean, he comes in, takes over after Pat Fitzgerald is unceremoniously dismissed. There's a whole legal thing with that. He's kind of able to stabilize them right now. If they're able to beat Nebraska, they're bowl eligible. And they both, like you said, they're both a pair of 5-win teams. A lot harder to win 5 games up to this point in Northwestern than it is in Nebraska. So I don't know why David Braun isn't being honestly thought of at Penn State and some of these other jobs. But with that being said, man, I'm going to go ahead and go with Nebraska. I'm not as high on Dylan Raiola as some other, fan people are that like him. It's fine if you do, but I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead with the Huskers. I like Matt Rule's coach, so I'll go with them.